What is happening, my good people? Greetings. How are you? How's it going? How's everybody doing out there? What is the latest and greatest? Hope everybody's doing well, feeling fantastic and excellent spirits. Of course, another Wednesday live stream, the last one of the month. Not the last one forever. But for today, as I pull that up on the screen here, October 29th, 2 days before Halloween, 3 days before November 1st. What do you have? 60, do the math correct here, J Reels. What, 63 days before New Year? I mean, geez, this is the time of year where it's going to go into warp speed. Because once you get to Halloween, as we all know, Thanksgiving, which will be what, 4 weeks from tomorrow. And then you have Christmas, New Year's, all the holiday parties prior to that. I mean, it is going to go by in a blur. But as I like to say, got to be in the moment, got to be in right now. Can't worry about Halloween, November 1st, Thanksgiving, Christmas, etc. All we have is right now, so we have to bask in that. And I thank you for hopping on board. For those who are tuning in right now, as the comments are already starting to pour in, I'll get to them in a minute. But here we are on another Wednesday. Lots to discuss, lots to unpack, lots to get into as we go through the sports landscape. And as always, please share your thoughts to my regulars who are out there. They know the drill. But if this is your first time, please don't be shy. Feel free to share whatever it is that's on your mind so we could get your opinions, your thoughts, your critiques, praises, whatever it may be here in the chat room. And then, of course, for those who aren't live that are watching the replay, still leave a comment. I'll get that and be sure to follow up with you ASAP when it comes to whatever it is that's on your mind as we go through it. Now, let's see. I'm sure there's a bunch of hellos and all that. Yes, bio. Yes, J-Rod. Yes, Aiden Hutchinson. Big time deal there. Now, funny enough, he's not making more than Micah Parsons. I believe he's about $1 million shy of that, but he is getting more guaranteed money than any non-quarterback, $141 million. We'll get to the NFL because I got a couple of things I need to say about that. And then Bio, my man, I've been thinking about you. I know, very tough loss. We're going to unpack that in a second. We're going to break down the last two nights and obviously tonight, a pivotal game 5. And is it a must-win for the Dodgers tonight? We'll touch on that in a moment. My guy Tatsuya, Blue Jays Sports Dodgers game 4 after heartbreaking loss game 3. Yes, we will unpack that, absolutely. And then Bio, he's human after all. Wait, are you referring to Hutchinson, I'm sure? Hold on a second. Yeah, let's see as I scroll up here. All right, Fishing Angel, yes. And the Red Wings, they continue to play well. We'll touch on some hockey later on, obviously with all that, NFL, etc. All right, so now let's get to the banners. Let's get to last night. Really the last two nights, because even with the game 4 in the books, and I know a lot of the talk is a best of 3. Where does this series go from here, which we will certainly unpack. But I'm sure there's still some remnants from what happened there 2 nights ago. And I think if you're the Dodgers, and Bio, please, I'd love to get your thoughts on this. For a Dodger team that went into last night's game as emotional as the night before was, as taxing as it was for that bullpen, and for both teams for that matter, but it's just strictly from the Dodger standpoint, because I do want to talk about the Blue Jays as well, and which leads into tonight's pivotal game 5. But the Dodgers, how I looked at it last night, I don't want to say they were flat, but I think in light of what happened there the night before, they just didn't have much left. As you saw, now Ohtani, listen, I know his final line does not look great. 4 runs, 6 hits, 1 walk, 6 strikeouts, but he pitched into the 7th inning, and he had to do that because there was no way that even if he had given up a bunch of runs early in the game, he had to go at least 6 and into the 7th. And I know there were people, from what I saw on social media and Bio, I know you'd be good to get your words on this or your feelings. There were people that were actually killing Dave Roberts for leaving Ohtani in the game longer than he should. And he was at 92, 93 pitches, whatever it was. And to me, that was a joke. It's like, what was he supposed to do? Go 4 innings? Or I understand he started the 7th and he gave up, what was it, the walk and the hit. But, I mean, what are you supposed to do there? And then, of course, the other thing is, he brought in Blake Trinan, which I understand. That's the last pitcher that any Dodger fan wants to see right now. But at the same time, where was he going? He wasn't going to go to Will Klein. He wasn't going to go to Henriquez. He wasn't going to go to Justin Robleski. His bullpen was spent, especially the ones that gave him more than 2 innings. Henriquez gave you 2 innings. Robleski gave 2 2/3. Emmett Sheehan was, I believe, 2 2/3. Will Klein went 4. So where was he going to go? He's not going to go to Sasaki at that point. And I understand people could say, well, hey, you had to keep the game there at bay 2-1. But Sasaki, that is not in his place there to come in the 7th inning to try to clean whatever mess that Ohtani started there. And for the manager and how he handled that game last night, what was he supposed to do? So for the Dodger fan that's coming out saying that, Dave Roberts, what are you doing? And, why did you leave in Ohtani? No, the guy had no choice. And you don't have Alex Vesia. You don't have Ben Kasparius. You don't have Michael Kopech. You don't have the guys that were, let's face it, they were the ones that carried the Dodgers through the postseason, in particular for games 3, 4, and 5 in the World Series last year. And you don't have those guys this year. And I'm not trying to make those guys out to be Mariano Rivera, Jeff Nelson, Mike Stanton, Ramiro Mendoza, the Yankees in the mid-90s, but those are 3 key guys that were in that bullpen last year that you don't have this year. And you don't have Alex Vesia, as you know. He's on a personal leave. So for the Dodgers and some of their fans, and I know, Bio, you're as by the board. You don't get too high, too low. You tell it like it is. And I'd be curious to read your comments. I see some comments there. But I can't kill Dave Roberts for what he did last night. Sorry. And I'm not trying to be an apologist. I'm not trying to say that, what are you supposed to do? You can't take Ohtani out no matter what. He wasn't pitching bad. He gave up the one mistake to Vladdy. And, that's Guerrero. It's not as if he gave up a home run to Miles Straw or somebody who was at the bottom of that order. And even then, the bottom of that order is pretty good, as I've talked about before. So I get it. Game 3, to me, last night was more of an indication of the Blue Jays, their resolve, as I talked about on the channel yesterday. It was more about them bouncing back because they needed that win in the worst way. Vladdy gave them some life, some wind in their sails. And I'll get to the Blue Jays more in a second. But to me, I can't kill Dave Roberts. I can't kill Ohtani. People say, oh, look at that. He gave a 4-run, 6 hits. Well, listen, he went to the 7th inning. And if it wasn't for, I get it. It was Trinan. What are you going to do? You can't go crazy knowing that the bullpen was spent from the night before. And that was a game that, let's face it, it's an all-time classic. We could unpack it. We could talk about it. And I know from the 13th to this, I'll say to the 16th, because I went to bed after the 16th inning. It was 2:15 here in the East Coast. It was, I couldn't. And those innings from 13 to 16 certainly did not have any of the play, the intrigue, the suspense that it had, whether it was plays at the plate, plays at third. The defense was just off the chain. Clayton Kershaw coming in, the Nathan Lucas at bat, 3-2, which was ball 4, but he swung at it. And that's a pitch that's tough to lay off. And I get it. He was just trying to protect the plate. He ended up getting a dribbler past Kershaw, which Edman made that scoop to Freeman at first. And listen, that was a game for the ages. And I understand from the 13th on, it kind of put you to sleep there a little bit. Maybe not so much for the people out on the West Coast, because the game at that time was maybe around 10:30, 11 o'clock local time. And the game ended right before midnight, where here, please, I couldn't. After that 16th inning, I said, no way. And 2 innings later, Freeman hits the home run. First player in baseball history, World Series history, to have walk-off home runs, well, multiple, I should say, in a World Series. And last night, to me, it was just a thing where the Dodgers, what did they have? They didn't have much. And the Blue Jays, to me, as I talked about yesterday, the 2 storylines were the Blue Jays resolve, how they bounce back from that, and also Ohtani. Because for as many times as he was on base the night before, obviously the 4 for 4, 2 home runs, 2 doubles, then he got walked, 4 times intentionally, and then 1 time there where they pretty much pitched around him. So 9 times on base. And I understand he's a DH. He sits on the bench the whole game, but I'm sure he was invested emotionally, spiritually, etc. And just him standing on base, that's one of those things you have to be alert. I get it. We're sitting at home, so it's like, oh, come on. He's just standing there. He's just waiting for someone to, either drive him in or advance. And there was a point, I think, forgot what inning that was. Maybe it was the 13th when he advanced from first to second. And I'm not going to say he came up lame, but it was a situation where, I don't know, maybe he jammed his heel and it looked like there was a little bit of discomfort on Ohtani. So to me, how he was going to perform last night was enormous. And at the plate, what is he? 0 for 3 with a walk. But to me, it was more of him on the mound. And he kept his team in the game. Now, I understand it got away from him late where we talked about Trinan. But how I look at it was, to me, that was the Blue Jays game that they absolutely had to have. They couldn't go into this game tonight down 3-1. And as it is, it's tied 2-2. And, I mean, what more can you say? It's a series that is going to be carried by what happened there in Game 3. Yesterday, I understand, into the 7th inning, then it got away late. Similar to Game 1, because that was a pitcher's duel with Yamamoto and Kevin Gausman. And then, of course, the Dodgers pulled away late. And Game 4 was a little bit indicative of that. And for Shane Bieber, give it up. He was tremendous. I didn't trust him as far as I could throw him. And I understand his track record and resume with his former Cy Young. Granted, it was in the pandemic year. And we could sit here and talk about how Bieber is a guy that was going to be up for the challenge. And listen, I didn't think so. Not to say he was going to get lit up, but I didn't expect that performance. And listen, it wasn't anything earth-shattering. 5 1/3. He pitched into the 6th inning. What was it? 1 run, 4 hits, 3 Ks, he walked 3 guys, but he kept the Dodgers at bay. And, you just tip your cap. And now you have a situation where it's a best of 3 starting tonight, the final game in LA before they move to Toronto there on Friday. And here are the things I'm going to talk about the game tonight. And it's funny because now how the Dodgers look to regroup tonight. Now you do have Blake Snell, and how I look at this game, Snell versus Trey Yesavage. Now, I don't know what to expect out of Yesavage. I'm not expecting anything close to what you saw there in the division series where he literally just steamrolled the Yankees. And I'm not going to look for anything that what he did in the first game against Seattle. I'm kind of going to get probably what you saw there in Game 1. Now, we're really going to see what he's made up of, especially here and up here, because I'm sure the Dodgers, they're probably thinking, let's jump on this kid early. We'll lay off of that splitter. And if they could get 2-3 runs on the board and then get that bullpen, the Blue Jay bullpen, which, listen, it's been pretty good, because throughout that whole Game 3, 18 innings after gave the home run, Sir Anthony Dominguez to Ohtani and up until Freeman's home run. I mean, their bullpen was stellar too. The Eric Lauers of the world. And I mean, listen, you cannot discount what they've been able to do, but you have to think that if they do chase Yesavage here early, the Dodgers are going to have upper hand and they're going to have gas in their tank, and you would think that they're going to pull away from this game. And how I look at it, Blake Snell, I think, will rebound. I understand that the Blue Jay lineup is very patient. They're not looking to just take what Snell, especially when he has that slider and that curveball working, that they're just all of a sudden going to flail at that and say, you know what, we got the one game we needed, let's go home. I'm sure they're going to look at tonight's game almost as if it is a Game 7 for them. As we know, it's going to be similar in the Dodger dugout. But this game is fascinating just as much, only because the series is tied. I would hope that the sports fan they're going to watch tonight, I mean, this should be a game where you would think minimum 15 million people are going to watch. And I understand that's not a big number when you think about it in the grand scheme of things, but it is a Game 5. Dodgers, obviously, I mean, both teams need to win if they're going to have the upper hand to try to win a World Series. But I don't think, even if the Dodgers lose tonight, they could still win the series. I mean, I can't discount them by any stretch. They're going to have Yamamoto go in Game 6, and we know he's been lights out here this postseason. And then in Game 7, obviously you're going to have Glass now. So how I look at it is that if the Dodgers win tonight, obviously they have 2 opportunities to win one game. And if the Blue Jays come out with a win tonight, obviously they're going to look for a coronation. They'll have an opportunity, 2 games to win one. Now, if they lose tonight, listen, you can't count them out either. We know that the Dodgers won Game 2 up there, but remember, in the previous series, Seattle won the first 2 games in Toronto, went back home, 2-0 series lead, and went back to Toronto up 3-2, and they came out empty-handed. That's not to say it's going to be the same recipe this time around, but you have to give the Blue Jays their due and give them credit because they're not a team that's going to blink. They're not going to be afraid of the moment. We saw that there last night. You have to give it to them. And despite what happened there the night prior, where it could have been easy for them to hang their heads, and I believe, I don't know if you've seen the quotes there by Vladimir Guerrero, but after game 3, there were guys with their heads hung, and obviously it was quiet in the locker room, and Vladdy said, hey, keep your head up. Let's go. Let's turn on music. Let's stay loose. And then I believe in the broadcast last night, whether it was Verducci or Ken Rosenthal, he even came out and said that the guys, they were loose, playing cards as if it was just a game in July. So nobody was tight. Nobody felt as if this was do or die. They were just looking at it as an opportunity to try to get themselves even in the series and have a chance for a game 5 where obviously you could say it's a toss-up. I think the Dodgers have the edge tonight only because you trust Snell a little bit more than you Savage. But I think that this game, I would not be surprised if it's another, 3-3, 4-4, 8th inning where who knows what's going to transpire. Now, the series itself to this point, game 1 was a blowout. Game 2 was good up until you got there. I'll say into the 9th inning because that's when the Dodgers tacked on those 2 runs. And then the same for yesterday. We know game 3 obviously is a classic. And then last night was a situation where once you got to the 7th inning and then it all unfolded where the Blue Jays got the 2 runs and actually got the 4 runs in the inning. I say the 2 runs because it was 2-1 to make it 4-1 with those 2 runs going to Ohtani and then obviously 6-1, and you felt as if at that point the game was out of reach. So let's see what tonight is. Now, is it going to be another classic similar to what we saw there 2 nights ago? I'm not going to go as far as saying that, but this could be one of those games that you remember. And it's funny with the World Series because really the game that, for whatever the reason, brings a lot of the drama, intrigue, and has been historically, for whatever the reason, known as classic when it comes to a World Series is Game 6. You think of Game 6, 86 with the Mets and Red Sox. You think of Game 6 with the Texas Rangers and St. Louis Cardinals when they were down to the last strike with David Freese, the triple, and then the home run and extras. When you think of Game 6, Don Denkinger, and I understand that was more of a blown call by the umpire, but that will be forever remembered, that call. And it's a situation where after tonight, who knows what Game 6 is going to bring, whether the Dodgers are up 3-2 or Toronto's up 3-2, because Game 6, how could you forget? Also, Game 6, Red Sox, Reds, Carlton Fisk, the Bernie Carbo home run in the 8th inning, down 6-3. I mean, for whatever the reason, Game 6 in the World Series is synonymous with just classic. And even though you got one classic here in game number 3, could there be another one forthcoming here come Friday night? Obviously, we'll have to wait and see on that. But how I look at this game tonight, I'm not going to say I'd be surprised either way, whether the Blue Jays win. I think the Dodgers have the significant advantage, and I think that they're going to win tonight. Now, if they lose tonight, who knows? That's going to be a bee's nest come Friday at the Rogers Center. But I think the Dodgers will prevail tonight. I think that for whatever that happened there on Monday night and the carryover into last night, I think they'll regroup. I think they'll come out victorious. I mean, I originally said Dodgers in 5, and I think the Dodgers are still going to win this series. But I would not be shocked if Toronto wins. Toronto, they've shown you in this postseason already, whether it was against Seattle or even now, that they did not blink, they didn't flinch, and they got gamers too, man. I understand they don't have the championship DNA, they don't have the pedigree, etc. But guys like even Andres Jimenez, I mean, he's a guy that it's weird with him. When you think he's going to come up big in a certain spot or bottom of the order, whatever, and, he'll strike out or you have a lazy pop-up, but, him just getting the bat on the ball, that little bloop into shallow left center field, or when you look at a guy like Addison Barger, who, listen, he's not on anybody's radar when it comes to like top players in the sport or even on the Blue Jays for that matter. You're going to think, of course, George Springer. You're going to think, obviously, Vladdy. You're going to think Bo Bichette. But Barger's a guy that why John Schneider, the manager, pinch ran for him the other night to bring in Miles Straw. And I understand Miles Straw is a very good defensive player, but he is nowhere near the stick of Addison Barger. And Barger's a guy that even delivered last night with a key hit. So that's the thing about this Blue Jay team. They have a lot of fight. They have a lot of gumption. It's just not based around one or two guys. I understand in the extra innings the other night, that's where the game, to me, got a little flat because with Schneider taking out all these guys, he took out Alejandro Kirk, he took out Addison Barger. They didn't really have much of a lineup left. And Springer left the game because of the injury to his right side. So now, listen, to me, the Dodgers are the slight favorite tonight, only because Snell, I wouldn't say slight. I think they were a solid favorite tonight, but it is baseball. You just don't know. I think the Dodgers will win. And then obviously come Friday, we'll talk about what's going to happen there as the series will continue. Let me get to some of these comments here. I see Bio, Tatsuya. Here we go. Tatsuya. Is it a must-win for the Dodgers tonight? I won't go as far as saying it is a must-win. I mean, you could argue whether or not it is because, of course, it is the final game at home. They have the other two games in Toronto. If they're down 3-2, why would I think that they can't win the next two games in Toronto? I understand it's going to be rough, and that crowd is going to be bloodthirsty because they know that they'll be able to taste it. They haven't won a World Series in 32 years. And for the Dodgers to lose tonight, it would certainly be an uphill battle. But I couldn't listen with Yamamoto and Glasnow. Now I trust Yamamoto more than Glasnow, and Glasnow's a good pitcher. But we all know Game 7, it's all hands on deck. So you're going to get Glasnow, and then on top of that, you're going to get probably Ohtani. He's going to pitch in that game, for damn sure, especially if a World Series is on the line. Suzuki's going to pitch 2 innings. You're going to get everybody all hands on deck. So I'm not going to go as far as saying it's a must-win, but obviously if they want to win a World Series, they have a better opportunity if they win tonight to go to Toronto with 2 chances to win than to have to literally have no margin forever if they're down 3-2. So, yeah, it's not a situation where because if the Dodgers do trail going back to Toronto that, it's over. There's no way they're going to win those 2 games. I mean, please. They're the defending champs. They know how to win, and they have winning players on that team. So I'm certainly not going to all of a sudden think that tonight is a must-win. I know I may have put that on my Instagram earlier. It's like, hey, is tonight a must-win in Game 5? Because I'm sure there's some people that think that even if Toronto wins, there's no way they're going to win in Toronto. I mean, why not? Why can't they win? So I'm not 100% sold on that. But you know what? It's a good debate. I'm sure there's some people that will think that Toronto's going to have all the momentum. If they win tonight, they're going to win these last 2 games in LA before going back home, and that crowd's going to be rabid. So we'll see. Tatsuya, Ohtani's the Dodgers' spiritual leader. The Blue Jays spent. I don't know. I wouldn't say that. Bet them over last night. That's a little bit too strong. I can see if they lit him up 2/3 innings and he gave up 6 runs and rockets all over the place. Yeah, I think the spiritual leader on that team is probably one of those unsung guys. Because it's not Freddie Freeman or Mookie Betts or Ohtani. I mean, these guys just got here over the last few years. If you ask me, and I'm sure, Bio, if you're still there, you would probably answer this best. I would think the spiritual leader of that team, not that I see him that way, but it's probably someone like Max Muncy. Do I even go as far as saying maybe it's a guy like Kike Hernandez? I mean, I don't know. But that's the thing about the Dodgers when you look at it. It's not a team that has a bunch of homegrown players. Because generally you could look at the homegrown player on a team to say, this is the spiritual leader, even if they're not the captain of the team. Because let's face it, I mean, the Dodgers, the only person that I could think that is homegrown is what? Clayton Kershaw off the top of my head? And I'm not going to talk about relievers. I'm not going to go down that road because they're not going to be anything close to what you would expect or think that a spiritual leader is going to provide on the team. But a lot of these guys are from other places. Max Muncy, he's not even a homegrown player. Wasn't he on Oakland before he came? And maybe he was signed as a free agent. So, but because Muncy's been there a long time, and obviously he's a guy that I'm sure is well respected in that locker room. And even though you have the superstars there, the Betts, the Freeman, Otanis, but to me, they're not spiritual leaders. I mean, I certainly don't think so. So I'd be interested to see what guy's going to step up there in the locker room. If so, let's say when they go in there later this afternoon to kind of rally the troops, say, hey, guys, we need to get this win because we don't want to go to Toronto down 3-2. If anything, I'll say Muncy, maybe to a certain extent, Kike Hernandez. And he's another guy that's not a homegrown player, but he's been there, even though he's been there, that had left the team, played on the Red Sox, bounced around, and came back. But that's a good one. Shoha can't pitch anymore. It takes way too much away from his at bat. Well, he only pitches once a week. J-Rod, I can see if he pitches every fifth day. And even during the regular season, not this regular season, considering that he didn't start pitching until latter part of July, and he was going to pitch once a week. And obviously, they built him up from a pitch count and innings limit, etc. But yeah, if it was a thing where, let's say, he pitched game 2 and he's going to have to pitch game 6, then maybe I'd say that. To me, last night, I thought he pitched well. I'm not looking at him as the culprit, like, that's the reason why the Dodgers lost, because he did not pitch well. I thought it was fine. And again, if you look at his box score, you're going to think, oh, geez, 4 runs, 6 hits. But no, I mean, he went into the 7th inning, okay, walk, and then the double to Clement. But, that was his time for him to go. He was at I think 93, 95 pitches, whatever it was. So, yeah, I thought he was fine. But yeah, I mean, listen, if you feel like he can't pitch or he should just stick to one thing, listen, he's getting paid $700 million to do double duty. So, it's the World Series, got to leave it all on the field. No, absolutely. Listen, and that's why it's going to be interesting to see tonight if Snell does go, I'll say 6 innings. I'm sure they're hoping for Snell to go 7, and you would think Suzuki's going to go 8th and 9th. Because the last thing he wants to do is tap into that bullpen if Snell gives him. And that's going to be interesting early on, just similar to what you saw there in game 1. Because if the Blue Jays are going to be working counts, fouling off pitches, laying off his off-speed stuff, because remember, even in game 1, before he gave the 2-run homer to Dalton Varsho, he was in trouble in that first inning. What do you have, 29 pitches? And that's what the Blue Jays blueprint is going to be tonight, to make sure that Snell works. They don't want quick innings. They want to have him work to get that pitch count up to the point where when you get to the 5th inning, he's at 80 pitches, he's going to be gone. And therefore, now listen, the Emmett Sheehan's and who knows with Will Klein. I mean, he pitched 4 innings and do 72 pitches. I don't know if he's available tonight. Maybe he's available for an inning. And listen, I don't want to make Will Klein out to be the second coming of, Eric Gagne, to use an old Dodger pitcher. But for LA, you would think that Roberts is going to look at Snell and be like, hey, we're going to have to ride you, man. 6 minimum. Take me to 7 because I just want to bridge from you to Suzuki and hopefully go home with a victory. If I'm Roberts, that's what I'm thinking about. I am not thinking of anything less than that. And Bio, I'm sure you could agree with that. Jay, I get it. They had no choice, but to have him pitch, in my opinion, his bat is way more important than him pitching. Listen, you can make that argument whether or not he should have pitched last night. Now, listen, as it was, he had to because, what happened there the night before? And listen, you don't have to worry about Ohtani pitching the rest of the series unless you get to game 7 and it's a situation where, who knows, 8th inning, you need 1 inning. And I don't even know if they would do that because he threw, 90-some-odd pitches. Maybe if he only threw, and listen, this is coming from me and trying to get into the brains of the Dodger manager, front office, etc. If it was me, he's pitching in that 8th inning. I would hope that I would get Glasnow to maybe even Ohtani to Suzuki, if Ohtani could give me 2 innings. So that's like 6-2-1 or maybe 6-1-2, however you want to dissect it. But yeah, I get where you're coming from. And you may not see Ohtani the rest of the series. Well, if it goes 7, it'll be interesting because I would think all hands on deck. You got to have Ohtani pitch that game. But here's the thing. Keep this in mind. Because Ohtani starts, when he's a starter and he's pitching, It's a situation where he could leave the game, as you saw last night, but he could stay in the game in the lineup. If you're a reliever, once you're gone, you can't come back. You cannot bat. So the only point that I could think Ohtani being in the game is if the Dodgers are up in the ninth inning and he closes. That's it. So maybe it's Glasnow, Sasaki, Ohtani. That is the only way, because one more time, if he's going in as a reliever, let's say in the seventh inning, and he's due to bat up in the eighth, he's not coming in that game. He's not. Or in the ninth inning, he's not. It would have to be in a save situation, or literally if the game goes into extra innings and I don't know, it's the 11th inning and maybe he batted the previous inning where they have no choice but to put in Ohtani just to save their bacon. And I don't even know if Roberts would even do that, because then people are going to just be up in arms and be like, wait a minute, how could you pitch Ohtani in the 11th inning and then now he's up in the 13th, or if the game goes 13 innings? I mean, you just don't know. So you got to keep that in mind, where if Ohtani's going to pitch in a game 7, let's say, I don't think he'd pitch in game 6, 2 days rest, at least you get that extra day Saturday from Wednesday, and that's probably his throw day anyway. But fascinating. I mean, you have all these different storylines when it comes to what they're going to do. But I get where you're coming from, Jay, as far as he should do one or the other. And again, he's not going to pitch the rest of the series, at least I don't think, unless it gets to a point where game 7, all hands on deck, where he's going to have to pitch but not be affected in the lineup, where the Dodgers know that, we got to get him there for one inning because we want to close this sucker out. And I think it's only when in a closing situation that they would do that. Dodgers only had Bandit, Dryer, and Treinen in the pen, not a lot to choose from. No, exactly. What could you do? And that was the thing that I was appalled, because, and I'm not a Twitter guy, but going through Twitter and seeing some of the comments, oh, Dave Roberts, oh, you're a clown, oh, you're this, oh, you ruined the Dodgers series. What? I mean, these people they're probably like 25 years old and don't know any better. And listen, not that I'm the end all be all when it comes to analyzing baseball, but where else is he going to go? As I said before. So, and like you said, Bandit, Dryer, and Treinen. There's nowhere else he was going to turn to. He's not turning the glass now there. He's not turning to, obviously, Yamamoto. And even there was discussion about Yamamoto in game 3, where if the game got late, and he was saying that, I'm not putting Yamamoto after the 18th inning. I may have to put in a position player, which then it would have been ugly. But you'd almost have no choice, because the game's would have been in the 19th inning. At that point, you got slim pickings. You just can't bring in Yamamoto. You can't bring in any of your starters at that point, even if it was for one batter, let alone an inning. So what is this? I called it in your short. What did I say and what happened? Yes, I know. As a matter of fact, I have to go back. Let me pull that up, because I did see your comment. I know I haven't followed up with some of those comments there, but I'll see right now. You ready? I got you here, Jay. Vladdy finally shows up tonight. Series is tied after tonight. Yeah, you did say that. In bio, I know you said, how about Will Smith catching 18 innings? Yeah, I mean, that was tremendous. And he, of course, caught last night. But, yes, and Vladdy showed up big. He had a hanger, and he was able to get enough of it. It just got over the wall, probably, third row. And away we go. What is this? Streaming to profile. Viewer comments won't show up unless the stream is public on Facebook. Oh. By default, it's friends only. Oh, okay. I guess because I'm also streaming on Facebook too, for those who are wondering. But anyway, Tatsuya fell asleep at 10 p.m. Listen, 2:15. I had to call it quits. I just couldn't. And listen, as it was, the game didn't end till 2:50. So if I stood up about 35 minutes, I would have had a chance to see it live. But I said, I'll wake up in the morning if there's anything to dissect as far as strategy. And at that point, I mean, what are you going to do? There wasn't much to really talk about strategy, because pretty much whomever was left there, whether on the bench or in the bullpen, it's not as if, you should have put in this guy or that guy. I mean, pretty much everybody emptied the benches on both sides. J-Rod didn't watch one pitch of game 3. Michigan State, wouldn't it matter if the Tigers win the World Series? Michigan football wins every time. Yes, because obviously that is your squad, the Wolverines. Go blue. And you guys are playing Purdue this week, right? Off the top of my head. All right, Fishing Angel. Why is this not clicking? Hold on. I thought the Dodgers were going to win, but I was wrong. Oh, no, listen. With all the momentum from the night before, listen, I would have said the same thing. Vlad shows up again tonight, going back to Toronto 3-2. All right, there's a bold prediction there, J-Rod. Listen, I wouldn't be surprised. I would not. Uh-oh, big Michigan football news, Justice. Oh, is that right? I thought I saw that too. Hold on a second. Yeah, because I was looking at some of the top storylines, etc. Wait, no, that's not it. Hold on. Yeah, I thought I saw that, and I was like, oh, man, surprised. So, yeah, he's going to be out, huh? So that's that's going to be it for him. Broken foot. I'm sure he's done for the year. Yeah, praise that broken foot able to come back soon. And listen, if he would have come back, maybe if they make the playoff, that'd be my only guess at this point, because broken foot, depending how severe it is, if it's a hairline or stress fracture, that's 6-8 weeks. And now you're talking late December. So, yeah, let's hope. Yeah, definitely speedy recovery there for Justice Haynes. And Bio, Kershaw's leader in the clubhouse. Yeah, I would think so. Obviously, well respected. The guy's been around since 2008. And even though Kershaw is a guy that's, he's not rah-rah. He's not going to be the guy that's going to rally the troops. But hey, because again, despite the fact of his track record, pedigree, etc., he is a guy that, of course, we all know is on his way out, and everybody respects him in the locker room. So I don't even think it's a thing where people will look at him with a side eye, like, oh, why is he trying to all of a sudden get in people's faces? And that's not really his demeanor. But yeah, I would definitely think that by far he's the guy that is the one that people would probably lean on or turn to there in that clubhouse. I'm going to say the Dodgers will win and the Blue Jays will be blown away by how good the Dodgers will play. I wouldn't be surprised if tonight, I don't want to say a blowout, but I wouldn't be surprised if we get one of those 7-4. When I mean by 7-4, let's say it's 7-1 and the Blue Jays tack on 3 runs late in the game. One of those like backdoor covers in football, although it's baseball. But I could see that happening where the Dodgers know they have to get to Savage and they'll lay off that splitter and get some runs early. And that's the thing. I think if the Dodgers score early and often, because to me, they could go up 3-0, and if they don't score for 5 innings, the Blue Jays come back in the game. So, they get 2 in the first, 3 in the third, another 1 in the fourth. Then at that point, maybe the Blue Jays will not all of a sudden just lay their bats and go home. But at that point, you're going to look at it like, this is going to be a rocking chair type game if they're up 6-1 third inning and the Blue Jays show a little fight, but obviously they're not going to have enough. So I could definitely see that happening too. But I don't know. I think how the game will play out, even if the Dodgers will win, I think it'll be one of those like 6-4 where it could be, like I said, I wouldn't be surprised, 4-4, 7th inning, 4-4, 8th inning, something along those lines. And then, of course, somebody gets the big hit or the big double, drives in a couple, something like that. I could definitely see that happening there tonight for the Dodgers. All right, how's the game is what they're saying. He'll be back, so I don't think it's broken foot, which is 4 weeks from Saturday. So, listen, if it's 4 weeks, I'm sure that they would, and obviously as a big fan of you, RJ, you take it. Coach Moore hasn't even said anything yet. Justice has been walking boot as a story. All right. Well, obviously a walking boot. Hopefully, obviously, if they're saying 4 weeks, that means it isn't anything. It's serious, but it's not serious enough where he's going to be sidelined 2 months or it needs surgery or anything like that. So, that's definitely a good sign there for the Wolverines. But yeah, so that's what I got with the baseball. Now, if you watch the podcast pregame on Monday, and I'm not going to regurgitate what I said then, especially for Jay, Tatsuya, I know was on Fishing Angel Bio, but anybody else that watch or listen, I'm going to take a different tact here because, and this is going to tie into the next thing I want to talk about, which was something that I read an article on, which I can't say I'm surprised by, but at the same time, it's like, come on, guys, we got to get a grip here when it comes to the NFL. And when I say another dismal NFL Sunday forthcoming, the schedule doesn't look great. I know there may be a couple of games where you see off the top of your head, you're like, oh, okay, but really, is it that? Worth watching? And the 2 games that I have that are in question, Now, the game tomorrow night, you're going to get Lamar Jackson back. He's playing against the Dolphins. And listen, the Dolphins won against the Falcons the other day, but that's a game where, please, that's a hard pass. But I understand there may not be anything else on. Maybe watch NBA or NHL. But the games that are of note this week that could draw some interest, Indianapolis at Pittsburgh. But with that defense, as I killed it there on Monday, an eyesore to say the least. But I'm sure watch, because they've been embarrassed, I would not be surprised if Pittsburgh wins this game on Sunday. Indianapolis has to come back down to earth at some point. And with the Steelers defense being atrocious, watch them regroup, watch them get to Daniel Jones, watch them slow down Jonathan Taylor, and then they'll win a, 27-24 type game. But the other games, Denver, Houston, we know about Kansas City, Buffalo. I mean, those are the only two games. And Denver, Houston, listen, Houston's played a lot better recently. They beat the Niners. They start off 0-3, and what are they now, 3-4? But come on, that's not a game I'm going to be, I got to watch that, despite Denver playing well here as of late. And then KC, Buffalo. To me, this is more a game for Buffalo. The game, it's in their building. But here's the sad part. Buffalo has beaten Kansas City, whether in Buffalo or in Kansas City in the regular season, I think 4 of the last 5 times they've met. But what happens in the playoffs? They can't beat them. So even though this game is bigger for Buffalo than it is for Kansas City, but I'm not going to look at this game and think that, Buffalo, they're back. I've seen this movie a million times. So whether it's in Kansas City or in Buffalo, I mean, think about it. Last year in the AFC Championship, we know what happened. And then 2 years prior to that, when Kansas City was in Buffalo in the divisional round, was it 2 years before that? Yeah, it was the year before that. Yeah, because Kansas City played Baltimore the week after in the championship game. And what happened there? Stephon Diggs misses that pass, that big pass on the sideline with about, 5 minutes to go. And then Tyler Bass was looking to tie the game. He misses wide right. I mean, the Bills always seem to find a way that whenever they see the red and gold, I don't want to say they fold like a cheap suit, but they don't deliver come January. And that's just a fact. I know, could it change this time around? We never know, blah, 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 but I don't know. I mean, one of these years you think they have to get over the hump, but I don't know if they're going to do so. And that's it. I mean, your Sunday night game, Seattle at Washington, and I know Jaden Daniels was hurt, and I mean, that game, please, not me. And I'm not watching Chicago, Cincinnati. Minnesota, Detroit is decent, but now you don't have Carson Wentz. And listen, not that Carson Wentz is anything to scream about. But does J.J. McCarthy come back? Who's the backup there? That game, that's going to be, I think, a disaster. Carolina, Green Bay, Chargers at Tennessee, Atlanta at New England, Niners at the Giants, Jacksonville at L.A., New Orleans and that's L.A. Did I say that right? Jacksonville to Vegas. I said L.A. because I saw the loss. New Orleans at the Rams. I mean, these games are brutal. And the Monday night game, Arizona, Dallas. Oh, my goodness. And I understand people are going to say, well, Jay Reels, not every week you're going to have 5-star matchups. And then your buys this week, Cleveland, the Jets, Philly, and Tampa. So you got 2 of the 4 teams that are out this week are obviously the top teams in the NFC. But now here's an even bigger thing that I want to get into, which was an article that I saw that I want to unpack this. And to me, I just shook my head when I saw this. I mean, and the owners want this big time. You ready for this? Here we go. Now, this poll, who the hell knows how scientific it is? Was this based on someone getting 5,000 responses from people that are under 30? Or I need to know the extent of what this poll was. So, and right now, I just read this a couple hours ago, so I have really no clue. But the fans want more NFL games, despite the injury risks, despite the mouths that the schedule makers, the league, has to feed to all of the streaming platforms, the cable networks, the TV networks, etc. And I've said this a million times, and I don't want to regurgitate what I said a couple days ago, but I got news for you. The fans that want more games, I'm sure those are the fans that gamble. Those are the fans that place the prop bets. Those are the fans that do fantasy football. And me, I could care less. You know the old saying, less is more. Now, the genie's out of the bottle. There's no way that the NFL is going to go backwards. In fact, they're going to want to get that 18th game, which is going to ruin the sport even more because look at all the injuries that you've gotten. And I understand that could happen in a 14-game season as it was prior to 1976 or a 16-game season prior to a couple of years ago. But here's the thing. The capitalist society that we live in, the NFL, the bulletproof, the shield, as I like to call it, that they don't care about anybody but themselves. They don't care about any of the other sports leagues. They don't care about the fans, as we all know. And the fans are the ones that can't get enough of it. And as we've seen here this year, where the quarterbacks dropping like flies, Brock Purdy, Joe Burrow, Lamar Jackson, and now with the situation with the wide receivers, Tyreek Hill. I get it, the Dolphins are terrible, but we know how exciting of a player he is. Tyreek Hill out. You saw what happened with Cam Scatterboo. And there's a laundry list of players that are out. And you want to add an extra game? And fans want more football? I'm already at my limit, it seems, at times when it comes to the NFL. And here we are. We're not even at the halfway point. And even though this is week 9, and technically this is the halfway point right here because there are 18 weeks in an NFL season, but there's still not a lot of teams that have gotten past the halfway point. And literally, you don't have a halfway point in the NFL because unlike the schedule prior to 2022, whenever they moved it to 17 games, to where the 16-game schedule, if you were, let's say, 6-2 or 5-3, you knew you were at the halfway point. No, you got to get to past the 9th game in order for you to be past the halfway point, which is just patently ridiculous to know that there's 17 games in an NFL season. That's uneven. And we all know, listen, I don't want to go down that road and start killing the NFL, but just knowing that fans want more games, I wish I knew how expansive this poll was, whether it was the 16-year-old up until the 60-year-old, because I would love to, and maybe I'll do my own. You know what? That's actually, maybe I have to do like a word on the street or even debate that. Does the NFL need an 18th game? Do we need to get that to where they want to extend the season till President's Weekend, et cetera? Oh, please. They shouldn't have messed with it. And again, I'm getting back on my high horse, but I think that with the injuries, I think that with just the oversaturation of the sport, I think with all these mouths to feed, the 1:00 games aren't what they once were, aren't what they used to be, because you have to placate the networks, the streaming platforms, because you have to have a decent game Thursday night or a decent matchup. You have to have, obviously, a marquee game Sunday night. You have to have something close to that Monday night. And as you get deeper into the season, you got Thanksgiving for 3 games. You got Black Friday. You got Christmas. You got the Saturday schedule. It's just, it never ends. And that's where the NFL, they're eating themselves. And they don't even know it. They don't even care. That's the worst part. Because you would think they'd want to protect their players. Now, the owners don't care because they're paying them. Well, I'm paying them. Look what they gave to Aiden Hutchinson, the Lions. 4 years, $180 million, $141 million guaranteed. And he deserves it. Hey, what the hell? Get the bag, whatever. But he broke his leg last year in Dallas. And heaven forbid, because of a 17th game, and not that he's going to play in week 17, especially if they have, whether the 1 seed or if they have something locked up. But again, the owners don't care. They just know that the NFL is a ratings magnet. It's a bonanza. And I have to go back to 2023, but out of the top 100 rated shows on TV, the NFL had 93 of them. Seriously? So forget about the Academy Awards, forget about any other award show or any TV show. Listen, the days of MASH's series finale back in and listen, I'm going 40 years, 43 years. Them getting 105 million, please. TV they would die on a sword. They would literally sell their own blood to get ratings like that. There isn't any show on TV that could come close to doing what the NFL on a Monday night will do anything best than whatever TV show that's out there. By far. Jacksonville hosting, I always say Carolina. That's my Super Bowl matchup. I got to switch it up a little bit, but put it this way. The Jets could host the I don't know. I'm trying to think of a bad team, but you know where I'm coming from. And they'll still draw 15 million people. Where, yeah, a season finale of, I don't know, you name the TV show. No, sorry. And I get it, it's different now, streaming, et cetera. But, the NFL wants to get on their high horse with streaming too, saying that, oh, well, our playoff game had 23 million. Well, if it wasn't on a streaming platform, it would have done more. Anyway. But the NFL, the fans want more. They can't get enough of it. I don't know. Maybe I'm the crazy one. And listen, I love the NFL. And as I've said a million times, which I won't say 1,000,001, but when is enough enough? To me, it just doesn't have the same special feel that it once did when I was a kid. And again, here I am, the old man, get off my lawn. All right, let me see some comments here. Oh, I see some good ones. Bio. Sorry, guys. Wish I could comment more, but I'm working at the moment. Oh, no problem. Trying to keep busy and not thinking about Dodger loss from last night. Bio, I appreciate you hopping on board, even during your workday. You know how much, just you stopping by alone. Even if you don't comment, I truly appreciate your support. And listen, I know we'll get to comment more. We'll go back and forth as we move it along, especially as we get deeper into the World Series, etc. JJ McCarthy against Aiden Hudson this weekend. Yes. Yeah, he absolutely will. Little Michigan connection there. Make the playoffs longer, not another regular season game? Absolutely not. Well, it's funny you say that, Jay, because now the only way they make the playoffs longer if they add more teams, which I'm sure they don't want to do. But here's the thing. They added the extra team to where, and I hate the Monday night wildcard game. Oh, I can't stand it. And the wild card round, let's face it, and I could go through over these years, the wild card round is an abomination. The games are awful. I could just go back to last year. We could break down all the games. There was one game out of the 6 that weekend, which was good. That was Washington at Tampa, and that was the Sunday night game. All the other games are terrible. Pittsburgh at Baltimore. How did that game turn out? Please, I can tell you right now, Baltimore outgained them on the line of scrimmage. It was like 306 yards to 60. I mean, is there anything to talk about there? Chargers were in Houston. All Justin Herbert did, I understand, was like 13-6 at the half. Texans, or maybe, I forgot who had the lead. But Justin Herbert was throwing interceptions as if they were late Christmas gifts. I think he had 4 in the game. Awful. Terrible. It was 20-6 or whatever the final score was. Denver was in Buffalo. All right. Bo Nix had that bomb on their opening possession, 7-0. They go, oh, hey, maybe after that, Buffalo blew right by them standing still. You had, what was the afternoon game? Oh, Green Bay at Philly. That was the most boring, nondescript playoff game. I think it was 20-12 or 20-10, whatever it was. That game had no flow. That game was just putrid. And then the Monday night game, because of the fires in LA, they had to move it to Arizona. So they had no home field. And as it is, the Rams don't really have a home field advantage. But Minnesota went out there, and what did Sam Darnold do? Implode. That game was what, 34-9 or whatever it was? The wild card games are literally, they're an eyesore. So the NFL could get on there. Oh, hey, everybody watches the NFL. And we all do. I mean, listen, why not? It's January. There's nothing else on. But not only that, it's football. It's playoffs. It's obviously everything's at stake and on the line. But the wild card round, is brutal. And listen, the NFL, they can poo-poo it all they want. Oh, no, it's not. Oh, no. And the ratings, they could go through the roof. But the games are awful. And I could even go the year before. Let me think. What was that Super Bowl? That was KC, San Francisco. Seattle played San Francisco in a wildcard game, which was good into the third quarter until Geno Smith fumbled, and then they took over from there. Pittsburgh, then they play in Buffalo. They had to postpone the game because of the snow. Mason Rudolph. And listen, I understand they hung in there. It was 24-17, but they had no shot to win that game. I mean, please. What else? Tampa and Philly. Yeah, that's when Philly got blown out in the Monday night wildcard game where Philly was a no-show. And yeah, that was that game. What was that? I think that game was like 31-6 or whatever it was. I mean, the wildcard round is terrible. Oh, here we go, Tatsuya. I'd support an 18-game season with 1 or no preseason games. Now, well, they'll probably cut the preseason to 2 if they do 18 games. I don't know, man. 18 games. Oh, I see an old name there. Zip Drive. Oh my God, you're taking me way back there. James, I'm shouting you out. I see the J there. That's the only reason why I said that. You support an 18-game season with 1 preseason game or none. Now, they have to play at least 1 preseason game, and I would think they'd play 2. 1 to get their starters in for at least a half or 2.5 quarters, whatever. And then the 1 game will just be, obviously, who the hell would they even watch? They wouldn't even draw flies to that. But I don't like an 18-game season. I just don't. Ugh. And I get it. It's going to an 18-game season. I mean, it's going to happen. I just hope that they keep it at 7 teams right now. I hope they don't go to 8 teams per conference. And if they do that, I will say this. If they do go to 8 teams per conference, you're going to get the 2 buys again. And that's the one thing I miss about the 6 teams per conference making the playoffs, because you had the 1st and 2nd seed automatically get buys. So you had the 3 through 6, you had the 2 wild card games, and that's what you loved. You loved the 4:45 or the 4:30 and 8 o'clock games Saturday, Sunday. And Sunday for the wild card, did they do 3 and 6? They may have done 3 and 6 before they changed the format, but I remember it was 1 and 4. I think it was 3 and 6. They probably did change it. But as you have it right now with the 6 wild card games, so they put 2 on Saturday, 3 on Sunday, and 1 on Monday night. I wish they would go back to just do 3 and 3. I'd rather do 1, 4, and 8 Saturday and Sunday than to do the Monday night game. Oh, I hate it. But you support an 18-game season? I hear you, Tatsuma. I wouldn't. To me, less is more. And as it is, they're going to go to 18. So who am I to say? If they get 18, they will want 20. I know it's too much. So unless they have a minor league teams that can get players, plus they have to increase the cap. Yeah, you're right about that, Zip. 18 will be 20, and then they'll expand it to 8 teams per conference. It's going to be the NBA. It's going to be the NHL all over again. I mean, and again, it's all about greed. It's money. As if these owners, please, they have money to burn. They have money and they would still be stinking rich. And I understand when you look at the landscape, Mike Brown in Cincinnati is not Jerry Jones. I get it. And Dallas is a big market where Cincinnati isn't. But they're all on the same playing field because of the salary cap. This isn't Major League Baseball where Pittsburgh is crying that, oh, we can't compete, we can't do this, can't do that. But with revenue sharing and with money that's getting trickled down, whether it's from the luxury tax and whatever revenue that's being generated by Major League Baseball, yeah, they put it right in their pockets. So that's a whole baseball thing that I'm not going to unpack. But yeah, I could see that. They want 18 and want 20. They want 20, and they're going to want 8 teams per conference. And, that's when the sport is really going to be, ugh. Fishing Angel says 7-3. I could see that. I know I mentioned 7-4, but you know what? Hey, I can see 7-3. Yes, and that's the other thing they want to do, Zip. Excellent point. They want to add the NFL games in London, Mexico, and they want the soccer audience, which, let's face it, people. They want the soccer audience, but in those areas, maybe London, because their NFL has been there now for more than a decade and a half with Jacksonville, but to have these games in Sao Paulo, where Brazil, it's soccer and nothing else. I mean, come on, let's call it as we see it. Maybe some NBA, because you've had some Brazilian influence in the NBA. But whether Sao Paulo, they want to have games in Australia. I mean, why? Oh, we want to make it global. The NFL is not, to me, in my eyes, I mean, I understand anything could be global, but it can't be global because NFL is a sport that is not rooted in, I want to make sure I say this correctly. It's not rooted in those countries that they're trying to reach because there's another sport that supersedes that. Because when you think of football, and of course you have to determine it as American football, we understand that soccer is football. I mean, no ifs, ands, buts, maybes about it. And how are you going to get those regions, those areas in the world that, let's say, don't have the resources to get equipment, helmet, shoulder pads, the infrastructure for whatever it is that schools, teams, whether it's city teams or even schools for that matter. But there's a lot that has to go into making sure that the facility, I don't want to say the facility that's too strong, but making sure that the equipment and the technology, everything is up to speed in those areas that they're trying to reach. Soccer, just like basketball, as long as somebody has a basketball or soccer ball and you have a field or a court, that's it. That's all you need. NFL, all right, you get a football, but no, I need a helmet. I need shoulder pads. I need a rib guard if I'm a quarterback. I need proper cleats. I need pants with padding. I need mouth guards. You got to deal with concussions. You got to do, and all that. And if those areas in the world that they're trying to reach are unable to support that, or maybe they're not even willing to do that, because it depends on I would think it depends on the city, depends on the country, etc. Then why? It's not like it's not like basketball. It's not like soccer in that regard, where all you need is the ball and the field and you're good. And even baseball for that matter. Now we know baseball, they've had the games in Korea, they had the games in Japan. You could do games in Mexico, you could do games in Puerto Rico, which they've done in the past, or Dominican Republic, and those are places where obviously baseball's king. It's not as if and they've done the London series in baseball, which I know, and but it's not like they're having these games and, oh, now we want to do Germany. Oh, now we want to do Brazil. Oh, now we want to do Australia. Baseball's not going to do that. At least I don't think they will. They'll probably do London and maybe they'll experiment, but they feel like, hey, this is our game. This is our lane. This is what we're going to dive in, and that's it. Where the NBA, and I see with the NFL, I see what the NBA has done, where they've gone to China, where they've gone and played in Eastern Europe. But you know what? That's where basketball players are being taught. You have the Euro League. If Lotto was here, he could certainly expound on that. But that's the situation when you have in those regions. Please, are there football teams in Germany? Are there football teams in Paris? I mean, come on. Who are we kidding? And I would think from the surface, I'd say no. And if there are football, it's probably flag football, which I could see the NFL trying to branch out and do flag football first and then slowly but surely. But the NFL is going to have to throw money towards those regions, towards those areas in order for this sport to thrive in those areas. Because if they think I'm just going to use Paris, for instance. If you think that all of a sudden they're going to incorporate in their high schools or whatever universities that they have there, and not even universities, let's just say high school, they're going to incorporate tackle football. I don't know if that's going to last. I just don't. Is there any interest there? And I'm sure there's maybe mild interest, but I mean, come on. I don't know. Listen, I could talk about that till I'm blue in the face. But yeah, and that's the problem with the NFL. They're trying to expand, want to go global, this and that. It's like, stop. You guys are a juggernaut as it is to begin with. And to me, and that's one of the things, even a couple of years ago when I went to Paris and even Rome for that matter, wherever I travel, especially if I do happen to go overseas, I'm going to try to take temperature of people and what they feel about that, because I got news for you. I bet you they would say, yeah, NFL, I can take it or leave it. They're not going to be, oh, we need to have an NFL team. Oh, we need this. Stop. Anyway, J-Rock, college football does its games every day besides Monday. Yeah, I know. I don't like the college football on Tuesday. Now, I understand those aren't big schools that are playing. They're playing like on Tuesday now, and then you've always had the Thursday. They're also playing Friday too. I thought they weren't supposed to infringe on Fridays due to high school football, although maybe high school football is probably coming to a close right now. But get rid of division in the NFL, make it wild card game. Wait, get rid of divisions in the NFL. It makes the wild card games garbage. When you say get rid of the division, oh, you're saying get rid of the division winner? Because let's say if they have like an 8-9 record and then they're hosting a game against a team that's like 12-5 or whatever. Is that what you're referring to? I think that's what you're referring to. All right, let's see. What if the NFL made it like Major League Baseball, where you had a minor league teams farm system to use the UFL? Listen, that would certainly make a lot of sense. And I understand they have the XFL, and I mean, come on. Is anybody watching that? Nobody is. Excuse me. But yeah, if they had a league like that, or even the CFL. Where's Brent when you need him? Canadian Football League would be perfect because they play relatively around the same time, and I believe they finished their season late November, maybe early December. So that should be. Now I understand there's different rules. The field is bigger, et cetera. So you probably can't even use the CFL for that regard or in that regard. But yeah, if they had a minor league of sort, I mean, listen, expand the rosters. They're gonna have to expand the salary cap on top of that too if they were to do that. But my thing is that it makes sense, Jay. But if that's the case, they would have done that already, right? Don't you think? But I think it'd be smart for them to do that, considering if they want to, especially if they want to expand to 18 games, whatever. Because come on, you're going to have running backs go down like flies, wide receivers. I mean, please, I went through the list of guys before, and I didn't even go through the entire list. Nick Bosa is another one out for the year. Yeah. Listen, I think that something like that could work. But the NFL, I'm sure they're probably too big for their britches to think, oh, we don't need a minor league team. We don't need a minor league system, blah, 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 whatever. All right, well, you're going to suffer if that's the case. But then again, people want more NFL. So who am I to say? Yes, just go by conference, not division, and make more even games. Well, it's funny because when you get later in the year, people tend to look more at the conference as opposed to the division, unless there's a situation where teams are battling it out for the division as you get deeper over those final few weeks. So let's say, for instance, I believe Seattle plays San Francisco in the final game of the year in week 18. And let's say, I don't know, Seattle is at the time, I'm just throwing out records. They're 12-4, and the Niners are 11-5. But because the Niners beat them in the first game, if they win that game, and even though they have the same record, if they do win, but they have the tiebreaker because they beat them. Now that's where you have to have the divisions, because then if that's a win or go home situation, which it probably wouldn't be, but let's say if it's a situation where, if Seattle loses that game, they could be out. But if they win a division, obviously they'll have the home field at least for one round. So yeah, I don't know if they're going to do away with the divisions just like that, because they want to merit the teams that win a division to get a home playoff game. But when we look at the grand scheme of things, everybody's going to look at, starting probably from week 14 on, they're going to look at the conference and see the top 7 seeds and where they stand. But the division still obviously plays into it, because if you have a situation where 2 teams are in the running for a division championship and need to win in order for them to get that home playoff game, so that's where that factors in. I wonder if they think of a realignment to get some juice, say a division Miami, New Orleans Jets. Yeah, if they did 8, now that'd be tricky too. And here's the other thing. If they did realignment, it's funny you say that, Zip, because think about the NFC East, for instance. There were talks many years ago that they were going to take Dallas out of the NFC East. And we all know they're not in the East. I mean, if anything, they should be in the NFC South. You could argue maybe NFC West, which then you'll have San Francisco at Dallas, which would be interesting based on their history between the two organizations. But they didn't want to ruin the rivalries between Cowboys, Eagles, Cowboys at the time, Redskins, now Commanders, and then Cowboys, Giants, because that was a pillar for the sport, 70s into the 80s, and even 90s for that matter. So, yeah, if you were to realign, I mean, I don't know how they would do it. They would either have to do 8-4, or I should say 2 divisions in each conference, but 8 games, which then you'll have to play, let's say 14. Yeah, that would almost be impossible, because even if you have 18 games, let's say for argument's sake, if you have 18 games, that means you're going to play 14 games against a team in your own division. So that means twice a year. So that's 14. And then you have 4 games left. So what does that mean? Do you play 2 games or 2 teams? I guess this is how you could do it. You'd play 2 teams in the other division. So let's just use the Giants, for example. NFC. Giants, whomever the 7 teams are in their division in the NFC, they'll play them. Then, and that's whatever that you want to call it. Let's say they have an East and the West in the NFC. So the East are the 7 teams there. Oh, wait, I take that back. Yeah, it's 8 teams per. So they play the 7 teams, 14, and then they'll probably play 2 teams in the NFC West. And then I guess you'd play 1 team AFC East, 1 team AFC West, and they'll just alternate. So let's say 1 year, whatever, the Giants are playing in the AFC East, the Jets, and then then they play the Broncos, and then the next year they play the Dolphins. And I guess they'd have to do it that way. So, which would, I don't know if it ever come to that, but yeah, I don't know if they'd realign only because they would still want to have Dallas. And I don't want to make it all about Dallas, but again, with Jerry Jones and Dallas, as we all know, with the star and America's team, and they're just a magnet because of who the owner is and they're et cetera. And listen, it's not a bad thought, but I don't know if they would do that. Unlike baseball, where they try to realign, or not try to, but they discussed realignment and how they would break it down. Mets, Yankees, Red Sox, Phillies, which, yeah, I'm not too keen on that either, but H2O people. Excuse me. So then you have, but no, all interesting stuff. And I appreciate everybody who's participated on that. So, yeah, and then the college Saturday schedule isn't any better as I move it along here. The only game you have of note, what is it? Oklahoma playing, Saturday night? Let me pull that up here real quick. Yeah, because the games are dismal. Obviously, Penn State, Ohio State wasn't what it was about a month ago. Vanderbilt at Texas, no Arch Manning. Isn't he in concussion protocol? That's a big game for Vandy, though, because I'm sure the Longhorns are going to be up for the Commodores, but at the same time, they should be able to prevail. I mean, you would think, considering they don't have Arch Manning on the center. But the only game of note there, Saturday night, yeah, Oklahoma at Tennessee. Not as a good game. I mean, listen, Tennessee looking to rebound. I know you have Georgia, Florida for historical sake, but we know where Florida's at now. So, yeah, not an exciting college schedule, if you ask me, as we get into November. Oh. All right, what else do we have here, people? What else can I talk about? Where's my page? Here we go. Do I get into this right now? I guess I do. Yeah, let's get into these 2 things. NBA. And the next one you're going to like more is something what Michael Jordan said last night. I didn't see the whole clip. I just read the article on it. Thunder, Spurs, Sixers, Bulls, the only undefeated teams in the NBA after 1 week. Now, Thunder, no surprise. Spurs, maybe a little bit of surprise, but with Wembanyama and how he's done so far this year, can't say you're like, oh my God, I can't believe they're 4-0. Sixers are 4-0 with Embiid limited, and this is all on Tyrese Maxey and VJ Edgecombe. And then the Bulls had nobody. I mean, but come on, Patrick Williams, Josh Giddey. Listen, now I haven't watched the Bulls this year, but so, and the Sixers have been a story here only because of what Edgecombe did on opening night, scoring 34 points in his debut, the most since Wilt back in 59. And maybe there's some juice in Philadelphia to where they may think or even believe now, come on, we're only a week into the season. So I'm sure they're tempering that just a little bit. But NBA, I understand it's early. I understand that after, of course, what we saw there with the 2 double overtime games with OKC and what happened with Wembanyama against Dallas. And we saw, of course, with the whole situation regarding the gambling thing, where I know right now I saw earlier that Billups and Rozier are going to be on unpaid leave because of what's happening. And obviously that's quieted down a lot as far as the gambling goes. And I know that they've reported 34 other players that are involved. Now we got to see who's on that list. If there's anybody of significance, then we could say, whoa, but if Terry Rozier gets suspended for life, is anybody going to bat an eyelash or even shed a tear for that matter? I don't think so. But when you look at what's happening so far in the NBA, I know you had the game last night, Knicks losing to the Bucks, Giannis wanting to get his revenge against the Knicks after they swept them last year 3-0. And look at that. He took that personal. So he kept that in the back of his mental Rolodex. But yeah, now the NBA will probably be lost in the clouds a little bit because with baseball coming to a close and football, college football in high gear, yeah, not many people are going to pay attention to the NBA. At least I would think, as far as them. What does this say? Oh. As far as them making some noise, unless you're just going to get some outlandish performances, 60-point performances or big time epic games or things of that nature. The Denver Golden State game that you saw last week where Curry had 42 and was making threes from the other side of the bay. But yeah, the NBA should probably quiet. Not, I'm not saying they should, but they probably will quiet down a little bit. But here's the other thing I want to get to. Now, I understand Michael Jordan is one of one. And I understand that the last time he put on a uniform was 24 years ago. But it's one of those things when MJ speaks, people are going to listen. But will today's player even remotely understand that what they do today, and I'm not saying today as in right this very moment, but what they do today as far as the day and age of this player, they're going to look at that and be like, well, hey, I'm not him. Or, oh, hey, that's when they played or whatever. But no, what Jordan is saying here, kids, as I'm going to have to bring my dog over here in a minute because I think she's going to act up. I got her. Oh, is she bothering you? Okay. Just want to make sure dog's not acting up here. But for Jordan to come out to say his comments about load management, how he never thought about coming out of a game. He felt it was his duty to play all 82 games. It was his fulfillment as a player that when he was on the road, that people have come to see me play their hard-earned money, guys that are sitting in the upper tank and having to dish out whatever it was. And now we're talking 30, 40 years ago, not the ticket prices that you see today. So he even had the wherewithal and the awareness to know that, I'm putting on this uniform. It's the front, not the name on the back. And I'm paraphrasing with what he said, but he's 1,000% right. And I get it that these injuries, we could talk about what happened their last playoff with the Achilles injuries, and I understand those are extreme, but these players that are just can't go back-to-backs, can't play consecutive games, all this nonsense. And I always love to bring this stat up from the time I watched during the pandemic, the great documentary, The Last Dance, and how in the back three of that three-peat, 96 to 98, where the Bulls, as we all know, those championship runs played well into June over 100 games. And when you do the math, and if you average it out, it was 101 point whatever games. But anyway, during that stretch run where the Bulls played total regular season and playoffs to win 3 titles, 304 games. How many games did Michael Jordan miss? The answer, a big, fat donut. None. And I understand he's one of one. He is a breed that not a lot of people have witnessed. And thankfully for me, I was able to see Jordan as a rookie before him making the finals, his meteoric rise. And then when he got to the finals, nobody beat him. And when you hear that stat, you have to think to yourself, what are these players in this day and age made of? It's almost as if they rather play 65 games, just enough so they could get the all-NBA nod, so they could get the super maxes on their contracts and do just enough and then gear up for the postseason, which I understand. But think about this. They have better nutrition, better travel, better accommodations on the road. I mean, have better everything across the board. Where back then, teams were flying commercial. The sneakers weren't as comfortable. I mean, come on, you're wearing Chuck Taylors Now you got to go even prior to that, but all of the benefits that the players get today that those players of yesteryear would have killed for. And here it is, Jordan playing 304 games out of 304, 3 straight titles, the legend that he is. And when he comes out with those comments, I commend him, because I'd rather have a guy that is willing to go through a brick wall to not only possess the ball, the 50-50 balls, the rebounds, and I understand not every player is built like that, but I'd rather have guys like that are gamers, that are assassins, than to have the guy that could score 25 to 28 points in his sleep, that could grab 10 to 12 rebounds as if it was nothing, but does not have the drive, the desire, or the will to win games. And as I've said this before, maybe not recently, but I've said this, I know, on my podcast several times. The guys that come into the league, they don't have the fire, they don't have the desire until they get to a point in their career, generally when they're in their early 30s, maybe even late 20s. I'll give it that, because these kids are coming out 1 year after college. To where they get to a point where they've made all the money in the world, they got all the endorsements, they've done all-star teams, whatever, and then they realize, like, oh, wait, I know what's missing. I want to win a championship. Where they don't have that mindset coming into the league where it's like, I want to try to win a title every year as long as I'm in the NBA. So they think backwards. They think, let me get my money first. Let me score my points. Let me be the volume shooter, the good guy or the good player on a bad team that's just chucking shots, that gets his. I don't want to single this guy out in particular, but the Gilbert Arenases of the world, guys like that. And it's a situation where when they get deeper into their career, it's like, oh no, I want to win a ring now. And then that's when they ring chase. They try to get to that team where they bounce around to win the championship. I'd rather have that guy that's, give me the one that's going to grind, that's going to battle, that's going to literally work for every inch on that court. And he may not be as gifted as some of the other players in the league, but you know what? Give me that guy. Now, you got to have talent. I mean, that helps, but imagine the talent and the hard work together. What are you going to get? You could get an all-timer or a guy that's going to be in the Hall of Fame one day. Because how many times have we seen guys that have the talent, that through the roof, potential, et cetera, and they fall short? The other guy I like to bring up, I don't want to single him out either, but the one guy that I thought could have been the second best power forward of all time, behind Tim Duncan. If you've ever watched Derek Coleman play, that guy was literally one of one. 6'10", handle, back to the basket, shoot the three before the three was in vogue, rebound, defend. That guy did it all. Ask Shaq, who was the one guy that dunked on him that he remembered now, 30 years later. Derek Coleman. He said, that guy, I couldn't handle that guy. He could have been an all-time great, but the thing with Coleman was, he'd be in some games, he'd be out of the other games. He's in or he's out. And listen, I loved him as a player, but that is the true definition of a guy that could have been elite all time, or a guy that you remember as, he was great in college at Syracuse. Yeah, he had all the tools, but here and here. And I'd love to get Coleman on. I mean, listen, that's a guy I would love to sit across and actually have a conversation with. And I would even mention some of those things. I'm sure he has those regrets, knowing that he could have been all-timer. And he could be, hey, I know I could have worked more. Whatever. Even Shaq said that. Shaq said, yeah, I understand now after the fact I could have worked more, whatever. And Shaq could have been, and listen, Shaq is an all-time great, but he could have been, and a lot of people will put Shaq in the top 10. I wouldn't. To me, he's somewhere between 10 and 20, maybe mid-teens to late teens. And I know people who knows? They may look at that and be like, what do you mean Shaq's not top 10 all time? What are you, nuts? Yeah. Listen, my top 10 is going to be different from a lot, and I get it. It's all subjective and it's all opinion-based, whatever. But if Shaq's going to admit that I could have been better, despite him being the most dominant big man of his time, then that's all you need to know. Because if he did If he had Kobe's work ethic, forget it. Forget it. He would have won more than one MVP regular season. We know he won 3 Finals MVPs, understood, but and here I am singling out Shaq for that matter. But you get my point. And that's the whole thing with the load management, whatever. I want players that are going to play every day. Listen, if you're hurt, ACL, blown out an Achilles, broken leg, or a hamstring injury that's not healing, a high ankle sprain, which never heals in season, I get it. And if you gut it out, you give what you can, fine. And I understand part of being great is being durable. But if you can't play, you can't play. But this thing about, oh, well, I'm out tonight because of knee soreness. Knee soreness? What? I rest my case there. All right, let's see what we got before I sign off. Bio, Jay Reels, do you think the NBA gambling issue is political at all? I don't think so. I know the mafia, and even though the FBI is now involved, but I don't think so. Even if the leader of the free world comes out and says something, I mean, come on. What is he going to say? Yeah, he's just going to say what he says, and you just whatever. I don't think so. Yeah, I do not think it is. And I'm saying that truthfully. I'm not saying that because that's a topic I want to avoid. Because you know me, if politics and sports intertwine and I have an opinion on it, I'm going to speak my mind. But in this case, I don't think so. Despite the fact that, and listen, ever since that happened last week, I mean, what have you heard? You haven't heard anything. Now, I understand Rozier, he has his $8 million in liens or whatever it was. But, I mean, it's Terry Rozier. It's not Luka Doncic. It's not Giannis. It's not Jalen Brunson, Anthony Edwards. If it was those guys, we got a story. And even though it's still a story, but, and it's Chauncey Billups. That's not to knock Billups, but, Billups is not Eric Spoelstra. He is not, think of any other big-time coach in the sport. I know I'm drawing blanks right now because I'm not in like an NBA mode. Let's say if Greg Popovich was still coach or Phil Jackson, someone of that ilk, then you'd be like, oh, wait, what? And it's Chauncey Billups. So, all right, Tatsuya. I thought of James Harden as a stat chaser and later in his career became a ring chaser. No, here's the problem with James Harden. To me, he's a guy, and I've said this a million times again. I'm sure if you listened, even going back to when I'd done the live streams in the spring. Yeah, the problem with Harden is that I don't know if it's more ring chasing. Maybe, I guess you could say that to a certain extent. Now, he got traded to Houston, or did he get traded to Houston, or was that a free agent when he left Oklahoma City? Yeah, I think it was a trade. Yeah, because they didn't want you to go the other way. Kevin Martins of the world. And well, anyway. But after Houston, yeah, I want to get traded to Brooklyn. Then I want to go to Philadelphia. Then I want to play in the Clippers. Yeah, that could certainly look that way, although those teams, to me, didn't really have a shot. Maybe Brooklyn did because they had KD and Kyrie. But the problem with Harden is that he's a guy that's invisible in big spots. I wouldn't trust that guy on my team in a pivotal Game 5, Game 7 if my life depended on it. And there are so many examples. I mean, do I even need? And this isn't just based on the last few years. This is even going back when he was MVP. There is, oh my goodness, as I'm thinking about it right now, there was a series against the Clippers in Game 6 on the road when they were down 3-2, and he got pulled from the game. And who saved the bacon? Josh Smith and Corey Brewer. I think that was in 2015. Look it up. And that's when Chris Paul folded. And remember, Chris Paul couldn't win a big game to save his life also. He was another one that I couldn't trust. But Harden has all these games. Game 6 against the Spurs, Games 6s and 7s against Golden State when he was, 0 for 12 from 3. Even in a Philly uniform, they were up 3-2 against the Celtics in Philadelphia. Invisible in that game. And then in Game 7 where Tatum got 51. And where was Harden? He was like 3 for 8, 6 points. I mean, that guy, I never trust that guy. And to me, I understand for the sabermetrics and the analytics and the scoring and the per possession and all that, he's one of the all-time greats. I get that. But if you ask me, when you rank this guy among the greats, it's hard. And forget about the rings. Forget about that. It's hard to put him up there with guys that have won and have maybe not made the impact that he has. But here's an example. They had that list, the top 75. ESPN did a list, and they had James Harden ranked one spot ahead of John Havlicek. I think he was 37th and Havlicek was 38th. For those who don't know John Havlicek, I understand people say, "Oh, it's Jay Reels. He's a Celtic fan." But Havlicek was a guy that's won. Forget about the NBA championships. There's a guy to put that aside. This guy has scored the most points in Celtic history. No, not Larry Bird, not Paul Pierce, not Jason Tatum. John Havlicek, and he was a sixth man. Let's start there. But this guy was all NBA first team defense 8 times. And was, I can't even tell you how many times he was first team NBA. And he probably wasn't even a lot first team NBA because remember, he was a guy that was coming off the bench a lot as a sixth man. But I'm just going to pull this up just for grins and giggles. So Havlicek went to Ohio State, as you know. He was, all right, 13-time All-Star. That you could give or take because everybody makes All-Star teams. I understand back then, maybe not as much as they do today. But here we go. And I take that back. He was 8 times, 5 times first-team All-NBA defense, 3 times second-team defense. He was 4 times All-NBA first team and All-NBA second team 7 times. So he was a top 10 player in the sport 11 times in his career. And this is championship aside, etc. Won a finals MVP, never won a regular season MVP because based on him coming off the bench. How is that guy ranked behind James Harden? How? James Harden couldn't defend a light post. And if I pull up James Harden's numbers, and listen, I'm picking on James Harden right now, but if I pull up his numbers, not scoring wise, but just overall, when you're talking about overall players, Harden. And then I'll shut up and I'll move on. Now, Harden has been 6-time All-NBA first team, no doubt. And he's going to be a Hall of Famer, and he deserves to be a Hall of Famer. So it's not even a matter of the Hall of Fame discussion or not. And he's never been second team All-NBA. He's been third team twice. So he's been 8-time All-NBA, where Havlicek's been 11-time All-NBA. And yes, he has been a 3-time scoring champion, etc. And he did win an MVP. I understand Havlicek did not. But if you're going to ask me if I'm going to have a guy on my team to win, I'm taking Havlicek over it. And it goes back to what I said, talent, hard work, etc. Where that's not to say that James Harden doesn't have the talent or hasn't put in the work, but where does that work show up in games 5 and 7? Give me Havlicek. And I can think of many more other guys than Havlicek that I'd rather have on my team than Harden. So. All right, J-Rod. NBA gambling scandal investigation was going on for 2 years before any arrest were made, in my opinion. It goes with the saying. Yeah, I found out. Yeah. But now we got to see who these other names are. That's where I'm curious. I need to know who else is on that list. It's not over yet. To be 100, only time will tell if we ever know the truth. I know. We probably won't. Who knows? But thank you, Fishing Angel. Appreciate you. And yes, you have a great day as well. And to your family, obviously to your hubby, which I'm sure is probably within 2 feet from you. You dressing up for Friday's Halloween Live? Listen, I don't even have a costume. If I did, who would I dress up as? That's a good one. Who would I dress up as for Halloween? I don't even know. I don't know. The last time I think I dressed up, I went as, remember that movie Dead Presidents? The Hughes brothers, where they had like the black skull cap and they had the white makeup with the black eyes and had the black leather jacket. I mean, because I knew that was quick and whatever, and you just go to a Party City, or at the time Party City, because they went bankrupt. But yeah, I'd just do that. And to me, that was simple. I didn't have to get really dressed up. All I could do is wear all black and away I go. All right, here we go. Jay, for Slow Sports Day, can you tell your Len Bias story if you have one? Oh, I like that. Tatsuya. You know what? Here's my Len Bias story. 1986, Celtics win the championship. Now, it's funny because I did see him play at Maryland. I watched some of the college basketball. And to me, that's when college basketball I was all into. I love Georgetown. Georgetown, of course, was a team at that time. But sadly, my Len Bias story was when he passed. Well, when they drafted him, second overall, 86, and he was going to be the heir apparent to Bird. And I'm sure you probably heard stories, read stories, watched video, etc., where people thought Len Bias, this guy was going to turn the league upside down. He was a guy that had mid-range game, explosive to the basket, could defend. Ask Michael Jordan about Len Bias. He played against him, I think, the 1 year in 84 before he left North Carolina, because that was Bias's, I believe that was his sophomore year. Did Bias, I don't know if he left as a junior. I got to go back and think about that. He may have left after his third year, or maybe he stood all 4 years, but Jordan played against him, and he said this guy was a man against boys. And when they drafted him, pumped up, I'm like, oh, man. And that 86 draft, if you go back and look at it, that was a brutal draft. One of the worst ever, because you had a lot of guys that, unfortunately, the William Bedfords of the world, the Chris Washburns, the guy, Len Bias, who died of a drug overdose, those guys were all on drugs, and they never panned out in the NBA. But for Bias, 2 days after he was drafted, when the news came down that he died of an overdose in his dorm room, you couldn't believe it. Like, what? I mean, this guy just got drafted. And I remember ESPN Sports Center when I used to watch it back then. And and of course, this is a different world that we lived in at that time. There's no Twitter, social media where it instantly you get it. I mean, you had to literally sit by the TV and watch what was happening. And it was just you couldn't get more terrible than that. A guy who had his whole future ahead of him, and one night partied or whatever, and that was it. Oh, man, I mean, it's terrible. Yep, and that's another one too there. Zip, Len Bias, Hank Gathers, and that happened during a game with Hank Gathers. And then his teammate Bo Kimball was shooting left-handed from the free throw line. If you remember, Bo Kimball was a big-time scorer. Actually played on the Knicks and was drafted by the Knicks, if I'm not mistaken, in the early 90s. But Hank Gathers, he collapsed on the court. I remember Reggie Lewis when he collapsed on the court. Celtic in 93 in the first round, that first playoff game against Charlotte. And then didn't see him the rest of the series. Actually came back in the game after he collapsed, but then obviously went back in the locker room, didn't see him. And then when he was better in the summer, when he looked like he was trying to get himself back and trying to get himself in the shape, and he was playing pickup basketball somewhere. I forgot where it was. Was it in the South or maybe in the Carolinas? And then, he collapsed on the court again and died. Terrible stories. I mean, and let me see. Bias didn't pass away. Boston wins a lot more championships, Bird. Yeah, you're right, J-Rod. Who knows? We'll never know. And as you put up here, Bias will pass away. Pistons don't have their rings 89-90. Probably not. Who knows? We'll never know, man. Yeah, and how Bias, because Bird, listen, after 87, Bird was on a decline. He had the bad back. He had the finals runs from 84 to 87, the 3 straight MVPs from 84 to 86. 88, they went to the conference final against your Pistons, as you know. And that was a great series. And those are just ferocious battles. And then that was it. And the team got old. And they kept the team together. McHale, Parrish, Bird, Ainge, they actually traded first. When he got traded, what did he get traded? Did he go to Phoenix then? No, I think he went to Phoenix after. I should know this off the top of my head. But, yeah, the team got old, and Bird got old. His back was shot. And, yeah, that was it. They had that run pretty much from 81 to 88. Because even though Bird had a little last hurrah there in the 91 playoff against the Pistons, against the Pacers, where he had that battle with Chuck Person in Game 5. And they actually had a 2-1 series lead on the Pistons in 91, but then they lost 4-2. And then that was it for Bird. And who knows, if Bias was still alive, the Celtics probably would have had another title, at least one more, you would think, but not the case. All right, people. Let me see. I was going to go to some NHL, but I hate to say this, but I got to go to the bathroom. I mean, I could put the live stream on pause right now, but now there really isn't anything else to talk about. Ed Orgeron, LSU return? Oh, I don't know about that. Why would they do that? I understand he won the last time he was there. They won the title with Joe Burrow and company, but let me see. Yeah, that's it. NHL real quick. Is there anything I could touch on there with the National Hockey League? I know the Red Wings, we talked about that earlier with Fishing Angel. Yeah, I know the Stars with Thomas Harley got his extension 8 years. Yeah, now you got another situation here with what's his name? Ryan Kessler facing sexual conduct charges. Oh, that's not good. But yeah, also what you call it? Yeah, the Mammoth got his extension. Logan. Yeah, NHL right now. I know the Devils have been hot, even the Mammoth too. Let me pull them up real quick. I know the Devils, yeah, they had won 8 in a row before they lost to the Avalanche last night. But the Mammoth, who had won 7 in a row prior to losing to Edmonton last night, Connor McDavid had a couple of goals. Yeah, so NHL, similar to the NBA, will probably kind of get lost in the clouds a little bit now that both of their seasons are underway. But, I'll be on top of that as we move it along. And now that I'm looking at my battery, I got to get my plug that's starting to die here. What I got? Let me see. Let's take a quick look. I got 22%. But with that being said, people, I don't know. What else could I say here? Oh, J-Rod, what is this? I was 2, never seen anything live of him. But like I told you before, I played basketball and I idolized the players from the past. When I played, Bias was, yes, without a doubt. Yeah, he was the truth before Paul Pierce was the truth. That I do agree with you there, J-Rod. All right, that is going to do it, my good people. I'm going to wrap up podcast pregame live tomorrow, and I actually may have a bit of a twist. So you want to tune in. A bit of a twist. I don't know. We're going to have to wait and see how this day is going to shake out for yours truly. That's your hint. So obviously we'll touch on what will be on the podcast. We know about the World Series, whatever's happening in the NFL. I'll try not to regurgitate the same things I've said here today, but the latest edition will come at you tomorrow, as you well know. Apple, Spotify, and, of course, jreels.com. Please subscribe, like, leave a comment if you haven't done so. Any last thoughts from the chat room? I'll be able to post right here. There's your latest edition of the podcast that's coming at you tomorrow. And thanks to all who stopped live, my usual suspects, Tatsuya, Bio, J-Rod, Zip, A.K. James D. I know I'm shouting you out there. Whomever else I missed. Let me just double check. I don't want to miss anybody. You know me. I got to make sure I get, of course, Fishing Angel. Can't forget her. Yep, Tatsuya. I love your comments. I love everything. Your contribution to this means the world to me, guys. It really does. You know that. Yes, J-Rod, you have a good day. But what was this, the Mammoth? Is the Mammoth the old Utah hockey? Yes, that is the old Utah hockey team. You got that right there, Jay. That is the case. So with that being said, people, enjoy the rest of your day. As you well know, whether you do or do not know, this is what I love to do, sports talk at its finest. You know the drill for tomorrow, the podcast pregame, the podcast coming at you, etc. And, yeah, I'm working on a couple other things too, which I'll probably share next week. Thanks to you, Jay. You gave me an idea for the Super Bowl halftime. Trust me, that's something I'm thinking about. And I'm also thinking about the anniversary show for 8 years come March 1st. So those are a couple of things that I'm working on, but I got a lot of the things that I got cooking too. And I only have 4 burners and I got like 20 pots. So this is what happens when you're a one-man operation doing this full-time, trying to maneuver, trying to navigate, trying to do all these things. But you know what? This is all the smoke that I've asked for since I've done this full-time and taken the leap from corporate America. But as we all know, I got to start hustling even a little bit more in order for me to take this podcast, take this live stream, take this to bigger and better heights. But thanks to you guys and your support, it is unwavering from yours truly to you guys, how much I appreciate you, how much I just thank you guys from the bottom of my heart. And you know that I will always come correct, directed, and full effect on everything that's happening in sports. As you know, it's in the blood, it's in the DNA. And as long as I'm sitting in front of this microphone, camera, etc., I will deliver nothing but passion, fire, energy, fury with my thoughts, opinions, critiques, praise, analysis, feelings on anything and everything that happens in the world of the diamond, ice, gridiron, hardwood, golf course, racetrack, tennis court, boxing ring, octagon, you name it. From my lips to your ears, from my heart to your soul, from where I am to wherever you are. The J-Reels live stream always comes live, correct, directed, and full effect. From the South Bronx, the South Beach, the South Central, the South Pacific, and all points beyond. Peace, love, and God bless everybody. Enjoy the rest of your hump day. Stay safe out there. I know Halloween Eve tomorrow. Podcast pregame. I'll see you then. And until next time on the flip, baby.